Welcome to the first episode of Tutorial Thursday, ang wholesome na. So for our first episode, we're going to create a broken glass effect, something like this. Today, what I'm going to show you is how we can make a broken glass effect on the canopy of the Exceed Zaku Head, similar on what I'm holding in my hand. I'll put the original one beside it, and as you can see, it's just clear plastic, unlike the other one that I already made that has this bluish or greenish hue that is close to the tail color. Let's put it aside and I'll show you the tools and materials that we are going to use. We will need a drill bit and a pin vise, a hobby knife, super glue, and a toothpick. These are the tools that we will use to create the cracks, holes, and adding a damage simulated lamination film. First, we are going to identify where do we want to put the impact on the canopy, and the location depends on the story you want to portray, or you could just make a random location. It's up to you. We will use the hobby knife to mark it. Nothing fancy, we will just mark the location. And then we're going to use the pin vise to make a hole. The size of the hole depends on how much damage you want to put on the canopy. For this demonstration, let's start on just a small hole. This hole will be the center of a bullet impact. And before we continue, let's assume it is a tempered glass, so we have to simulate the cracks to make it realistic. I'll just add random lines here using a hobby knife. One thing you want to consider is to create something like a web. This will not be the best one I've made since this is for demonstration purposes only, and creating these cracks requires practice to make it look natural. I hope the camera can capture this clearly so you can see the lines. And these are just the initial lines that will be guiding us as we progress, and we can further add more cracks later. Next, we are going to add some lines around it. This will make the simulation of the glass breaking more effective. Now it's time to use our super glue, but first I will lay down the masking tape so we don't destroy our cutting mat. We only need a small amount and we are going to use a toothpick as an applicator. Let that super glue to cure. It will fog and provide a white colored reaction at the back of the canopy. For the meantime, let's add another bullet impact following the same process. And now we wait. While the super glue cures, it will create a white residue as a result of a byproduct during the curing process. That residue will add an effect similar on how the lamination reacts on tempered glass during impact.
Later that same evening.
Now that it is cured, we can see the result. It is a bit too much and may not look good up close. So we are going to clean it up, and I'll be using isopropyl alcohol since I don't have any acetone right now. Using a cotton bud, clean the outer areas until you're satisfied on the result. We are now going to add more lines to simulate more cracks. Since this canopy is quite thick, another thing you can do is to chip some plastic near the hole we made earlier. You can also make the hole bigger if you like to. It will add on the effect that we are aiming to do. And next thing is adding a tint to make the plastic to look like glass. For this effect, I'll be using a permanent ink. I'm using Copic 504 Tahitian Blue and YG13 Charge Glass. We are going to mix both. Start with a small quantity, and if the hue is incorrect, just add more to correct it. Right now, the color is too green, so I will add more Tahitian Blue on the mixture. So let's remove the previous layer of ink since it is incorrect. Now we're going to blush the ink, and it doesn't need to look perfect since we're going to remove most of it later. And we are going to leave just the right amount of tint onto the canopy. At the back of the canopy, avoid the center. We want it to stay white as possible. The next thing we're going to do is to clean it up using a cotton swab dipped in alcohol. Do not remove the ink at the sides because if you do that, it will remove as well the glass-like effect of the ink. You can see now how we slowly make it look like glass. We are just going to leave just a small amount of ink and let it sink in into the scratches that we made earlier. At the back, the frosted white parts with the combination of the ink gives it a natural look or effect like a broken tempered glass. We can add more scratches to create a more broken parts of the glass and then add more ink until we achieve the look that we are satisfied with. As you can see, the middle part where I put the super glue did not create that white effect. One thing we can do is either make the hole bigger or chip away more plastic. We can even further add more scratches into it. Now that the ink is dry, this is the result. I intended not to do anything on the right side of the canopy so you can see the difference between the plastic, and as we look on the left side, it transitioned to something like a glass. At this stage, we can still further add more crack. This process is the most tedious one since it requires practice to create something near to the realistic broken glass, and it's not easy since we are doing this manually. It is a different process unlike the other tutorials that others use a real glass, put a clear tape on it, and then they smash it to have a real broken glass. So this will take a lot of time. This will be the end for this tutorial. If you want to practice this, I would suggest to try it first on a clear acrylic sheet instead of directly doing it to the part for the first time. Let's put it beside the other canopy, and as you can see, the tint is much more less on it. We can further achieve this by cleaning the ink more. Just repeat the process until you are satisfied. If you like to try this out but don't have the Exceed Zaku head, this tutorial can also be applied on dioramas, like if you want to add broken glass on buildings or on other vehicles. Though the glass on those may not have the tint since it uses a different type of glass, and some may not even have a lamination film. And that is also something you should consider. Knowing what type of glass to imitate since different glass have different effects. But for this tutorial, we proceed to something like this since there are no documentation as well what type of glass was used on the Zaku canopy. And that's it for the first episode of Tutorial Thursdays. Sana appreciate nyo ko. If you like this episode and you want to see more, I would appreciate your support by sharing this to your friends and your fellow modelers. Click that subscribe button and make sure to hit that notification bell. Hanggang sa muli, kita-kits sa susunod na episode. De puta, ayaw mag-stop.